Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Tell me where you're from. What state do you hail from, or what country do you reside in? My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and today we're going to be talking about the Bryan Kohberger case. I have a picture of Ethan up on the screen. Everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. Let's get started.
Cause affidavit, and they don't have to lay out their whole case here. They just have to make up probable cause.
They went to a very lengthy analysis of the cell phone. What people have to understand is the cell phone is not like GPS.
That the scientist and the science behind this, when they do match his DNA with the DNA that was found at the crime scene, I think that will be an extremely important that 51% that there was a crime.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Davies.
All right, come on in. I'm glad you guys are here. We have a lot of information to go over. Today, we're going to be talking about the latest controversy in Bryan Kohberger's motive. We're going to be talking about Dr. Ramsland because Howard Blum put forward certain statements about Dr. Ramsland, and she has responded. We're going to be talking about the secret hearing that occurred yesterday. Is this an attempt at a plea deal? Were they discussing Bryan Kohberger's mental health? We're going to be talking about BK's suspicious sibling. Is his sister going to testify? The Mad Greek restaurant. Was Bryan Kohberger really there? And what will jury selection in this case look like? We're going to talk about antisocial personality disorder signs and symptoms. Did his parents miss important warning signs that his sister saw? And we're also going to do a little bit of a tour of the 1122 King Road home. So come on in, tell me where you're from. My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, it's free. It is free. So please subscribe and help me out. And know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. So I want to start with the Howard Blum, but I do want to say that I did get some receipts from one of you guys in the comment section on this, and I have taken this video down because the warden is saying that Bryan Kohberger did not cause any issues in the Pennsylvania jail. And of course, you guys know I like to bring you credible information. So I have removed that from the playlist and wanted to make the correction first thing live on this show. So let's get started on all of the other information that we have to go on. I want to start off with the Howard Blum because this was attributed. Howard Blum reported out that, and let me just put a picture up in case anybody's coming by wondering who we're talking about here. I do have to, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty, but I do have to talk about this case in terms of him because he's the only one who's been indicted. He's the only one who's in jail. He's the one that the attorneys on both the prosecution and defense teams are filing motions on behalf of. So I do have to talk about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger, but he is innocent until proven guilty. So Howard Blum is a renowned he said that renowned forensic, he's a journalist, he said that renowned forensic psychologist, he claimed that in his airmail article, online newsletter, and he also claimed it on multiple media outlets. And this is not the first time Howard Blum has gotten into trouble. He made claims about Steve Gonsalves, that Steve Gonsalves also came out and corrected. But he wrote that Bryan Kohberger committed these crimes to impress Dr. Kathleen Ramsland. Now, she is a forensic psychologist professor at DeSales University, where Bryan Kohberger received his master's degree in Pennsylvania. And according to Howard Blum's articles, he said that the prosecutors were preparing to argue that the, quote, the pupil was ready to become the teacher. He'd ill with a K, away with someone. He'd unalived someone. He'd prove how smart he was, and he would show how much he had learned. So that's what he was stating in his article on the airmail. However, according to NewsNation and multiple other sources also, but I'm going to show this one because it's free and I don't have to have a subscription for it. And I don't want to get into a copyright issue either with a newspaper that requires a subscription and then I'm putting their articles online. But in a statement obtained by NewsNation, Dr. Ramsland categorically denied the claims in the article. So let's look at this article, what she's saying, because I do think this is really really important. And I do, feel badly for her that she's had to come out and deny this. So she said that she made the statement it was obtained by NewsNation. She said that she categorically denied key claims in Howard Blum's article, stating that she had no email correspondence with Bryan Kohberger. That was one of the things that he claimed. And she said he had no email correspondence with Bryan Kohberger while he was at Washington State University and had not been in contact with him since he was arrested. She said, quote, "I called his parents as a gesture of kindness." So I don't, I think, because he had said she was going to be sitting with his family at Bryan Kohberger's family at the trial. But she says, "I called his parents as a gesture of kindness. I do not advise them about the case." He had also claimed that she was advising them. She said, "I did not call them hours after the arrest, as Blum claims." Now, what I think is going on here, let me know if you have a different take, but what I suspect is that Catherine Blumsberg, who is known for the book that she wrote on Dennis Rader, who was the BTK perpetrator, she wrote a book about him. So what I think she's doing is she's ingratiating herself. She did have a connection because she was his professor at DeSales, but she, maybe ingratiating herself a little bit to try to get inside scoops because probably she's going to write a book on this. So, but this is, this was, being attributed all over the news as the motive in this case. And Kathleen Ramsland also refuted other claims in the article, including that she had discussed a book with Bryan Kohberger's sister or that she had brokered anything regarding legal representation. So in response to Dr. Ramsland's denials, journalist Howard Blum acknowledged the error regarding the email correspondence, but defended his overall theory as a hypothesis. So, and the prosecution stuck under a gag order. So I really am wondering if this is true, that the prosecution is going to be saying that this is the reason. I don't think if this is a hypothesis, then, and the prosecution's not in a position to deny this because of the gag order. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I think it's a problem for Howard Blumberg. Let me know if you have a different take on it. We have so much stuff to unpack. Let's keep going. Let's see. Let me just put a picture up. Okay, there's Bryan Kohberger, and this is the iconic post. All right, so that's the motive. So right now, they, this whole thing that was all over the news this last over the weekend about this, this motive, and even into last week, just turns out to probably be a nothing burger. And I don't think this is what prosecutors are going to come forward with a motive. So let's talk about the secret hearing that was held on Monday. Is there a plea deal negotiation happening behind the scenes? Some people think there is. I know that Scott Reich, said on Crime Talk last time there was a hearing like this that was, closed to the public, was in the Chris Watts case. And then there was a plea deal. So he was wondering, like a lot of us, is there a plea deal going on? Because this judge in Ada County, we still have a gag order in place, but he's released a lot of the motions. The defense and the prosecution can redact what they want. But we're also going to talk about taking a tour of the 1122 King Road home, where was Dylan's room in relation to the stairs. We're going to discuss BK's suspicious sibling. Is his sister going to testify on behalf of the prosecution? We're going to talk about the Mad Greek restaurant. And we do know now that his sister has not made a deal with Catherine Ramsland regarding a book deal. The Mad Greek restaurant, was he there? Was he there twice, like it's being claimed, or is this not true? What would jury selection look like? And antisocial disorder signs and symptoms. Did BK's parents miss important warning signs? So we're going to talk about all of that today. So come on in, tell me where you're from. So and you guys know I love to jump right in. So the plea deal theories have now emerged that Bryan Kohberger may be ready to plead guilty, according to RadarOnline. Now, BK's legal team recently attempted to boot the capital punishment option for the jury following BK's autism diagnosis. And as the defense team claimed, due to his behavior. And so I'm wondering, and they had this diagnosis and said that this would increase his risk of being sentenced, if he's found guilty, to capital punishment. And the defense team argued that every move that BK made is under a spotlight, and claimed that he was being presented as evil by the media. However, the judge clapped back and said that BK's diagnosis can be used as a mitigating factor if he's found guilty, but he said it does not keep him from facing capital punishment. So could this meeting be related to the prosecution's request to have independent psychological testing done on Bryan Kohberger? We know that the prosecutors in this case, that they have asked the judge for permission to conduct their own psychological testing on Bryan Kohberger. So it sounds like at first they received the diagnosis, and that was done by, I believe, psychologist Dr. Orr. And then the prosecution wanted the testing and how she got to this diagnosis. And at the same time, they were asking Ann Taylor, BK's lead defense attorney, for permission not to have their expert, but just an independent expert verify the OCD and the autism diagnoses. She refused, didn't want an independent. So I'm wondering if, maybe due to mental health things about Bryan Kohberger that could potentially, invade his right to privacy, that could potentially be a problem if a juror found out about this. If this is the reason why we had this closed door hearing, let me know what you think. So the Ada County judge denied a motion to strike capital punishment, despite BK, his diagnosis of autism, which, by the way, didn't happen in childhood. This did not happen until he was in jail. As I shared with you during the last live stream, the attorney for CNN, Gene Caceres, explained that the latest developments in the high-profile case, that this diagnosis was done while he was in jail, and it doesn't sound like this was a childhood diagnosis of autism. It sounds like he was diagnosed as autistic after he was in jail. And I think this is why the prosecution wants to verify with an independent expert whether or not Bryan Kohberger actually is autistic. And I just want to be clear that just because someone is autistic does not mean that they are more or less likely to commit a crime like this. They are no more likely to commit a crime like this than someone who isn't autistic. But it is also possible, and maybe this is why speculation alert here, it is also possible that Bryan Kohberger could be autistic and also be, have psychopathic traits. We know from his TapaTalk forum talking about feeling like an empty sack of meat, and even more terrifying, in light of what he's being accused of, viewing other people as sacks of meat. So we're going to talk about BK's suspicious sibling. Is his sister going to testify for the prosecution? The Mad Greek restaurant, is this another connection of Bryan Kohberger to the victims? Was he really there twice? What the jury selection is going to look like? Antisocial personality disorder, signs and symptoms. Is this what the prosecution is looking for? Are they looking to see if he has, maybe he is autistic, but maybe he also has antisocial personality disorder? Are they, looking to see what else could be going on? Or has this psychologist made an error and it's not autism, it's antisocial personality disorder. So did Bryan Kohberger's parents miss important warning signs as he was growing up? We're going to talk about all of this in just a moment, but let's continue talking about Bryan Kohberger. So now 3 months before the trial is supposed to begin, this judge orders this closed door hearing, and it kind of felt like it was last minute, because we knew about the May 15th hearing. I'm going to be airing that on the show, but yesterday's hearing came kind of out of nowhere. And this judge has been really open with all of us, and we still have not had any details leaked to us as to what this closely guarded secret hearing was. And both the media and the public were all blocked, including victims' families. So no leaks have emerged. So a lot of people have speculated there's a plea deal in the works, while other people think it's related to his mental health. I'd like to know what you guys think. We know that the prosecution wants to have an independent expert, not the prosecution expert, just somebody independent to find out about this diagnosis and to give the prosecution their opinion. We know Ann Taylor was saying that absolutely not. She was not going to let this happen. So maybe this is what's being argued behind a closed door hearing, and maybe the judge will release the transcripts of the hearing and just redact out parts that could influence BK's right to a fair trial. And I think it's so unusual to have this closed door hearing because this particular judge has gone to great lengths to make information regarding Bryan Kohberger a lot more accessible. He gives the prosecution and defense both opportunities to redact from their motions, but then he releases the motions to the public. He's been very open about letting cameras in and into the courtroom. So for the most part, except for one other hearing, everything else has been public, and even that hearing, the transcripts were released of it. So I don't know if we're going to get a transcript on this yet or not, but we still do have a hearing on the books for Bryan Kohberger from May 15th, and I will be airing that on the channel. So let's do a poll. And then we're going to talk about BK's suspicious sibling. Is she going to testify for the prosecution? Did she turn him in? The Mad Greek restaurant, was Bryan Kohberger there twice or not? What will jury selection look like in this case? Antisocial personality disorder. Did his parents miss some important warning signs? We're going to talk about all of that in just a moment, so please stay with me. But here is our poll. If you think that this is related to some type of a plea deal, this closed door secret hearing, put a 1 in the chat if you think it's a plea deal. Or in the comment section if you're watching this. If you think this is related to mental health and the prosecution request to have an independent expert confirm his diagnosis of OCD and autism, put a 2 in the chat. So 1 if you think it's a plea deal, 2 if you think that it is related to mental health issues, and then if you think it's something else, then put what you think it is. But former federal prosecutor Neema Ramani, who is the president and co-founder of the West Coast Trial Lawyers, well, she spoke to the Daily Mail and said that this hearing could be a number of things. She suggested that it could be under seal because it involves information about victims, witness testimony that the court doesn't want made public and may or may not be admitted at trial, jury issues. She also mentioned BK's own health and mental competency. And so she said that she didn't feel like the judge was going to risk prejudicing the jury if Bryan Kohberger had some mental health issues. So let me check in with chat, and then we're going to do a tour of the 1122 King Road home, just showing a couple of highlights. We're not going to go through all of it, but just give you guys a little bit of a layout because the house has been turned down. We're going to talk about what jury selection is going to look like. We're going to talk about antisocial personality disorder, signs and symptoms. Did his parents miss important warning signs? And then we're going to talk about the Mad Greek restaurant. Was he there or not? Some say he was there twice. Some people say he wasn't there at all. And then what will the jury selection actually look like? So let me check in with chat, and then we are going to take this tour. So come on in. Let me grab a sip of water. Tell me where you're from. I'm glad you're here. I see 1s and 2s popping up. Okay, let me back up a little bit. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you, Njaz. Njaz is our head mod, along with Brother Mike, and also Six Sense Amelia, who I don't see in chat right now. Let's see. Okay, so let me just scroll down. Oh, it froze there. Got stuck. Okay, let's find those numbers. I do want to welcome Per Anderson for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you so much for being part of the channel, and welcome to Reporter Room. Hi, Pamela. Hi, Florence. Hi, Kathleen. Oh, you're going to fall asleep listening to me? That's so sweet. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Endus, for modding today. Thank you to all our mods. Thank you, Christy, for modding. Rebecca, thank you for correcting that. Of course. Lori says, hi, Jessica and everyone. Las Vegas Girl said, let's all hit the like button on the way in to support Reporter Room. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hi, Ange. Hi, Dabs. Thanks for modding today. Mike, thank you so much. Mike says Howard Blum needs a gag order. I'm so glad you're here with us today. Okay, so let's look at the poll. Let's see what we got here. I'm really curious to see what your take is on it. And he said, in the Lori Vallow Daybell case, first court case, her mental health was discussed with closed door hearings, and they are still locked. So that's also in Idaho. So that's really helpful, Anita. Thank you so much. Thank you, DR. Thank you, Mary. Hi, Jody. Thank you for modding today. Thank you for modding today, Smiley Paws. Thank you for modding today, Leslie. Unsilent Bob says, yep, but it will just make the defense disagree with any analysis. The judge needs to hire the indie shrink on behalf of the court, make it fair to both sides. Yeah, and that's what I think that's what the prosecution's asking for. They're not asking to have their independent their person do it. They want an independent person to come in and tell us about the diagnosis. And so, you know, so let's see. So if it's a plea deal, you're putting a 1 in the chat. If you think it's mental health, you're putting a 2 in the chat. If you think it's something else, then just tell me what you think it is. So Pepper thinks it's a 1. Kat thinks it's a 1. Hey, Kimmy. Kimmy thinks it's a 2. Kathleen says 2. Patricia says 2. Bright Love says 1. Rebecca says, I can't see him taking a plea deal, even if it was offered. Yeah, that makes sense. Marilyn thinks it's a 2. Adrian says parents don't want to see this in their children. No, I agree. The truth says 2. Gail says 2. Veronica says 2. Gail says 2. Anita says 2. So a lot of you guys think it is related to mental health. Rebecca thinks it's a 2. Lainey thinks it's a 2. Lori 2. Christine 2. Lisa 2. So 1 if you think it's a plea deal. 2 if you think it's mental health. And then just tell me what it is if you don't think it's 1 or 2. Pauline has 2. Unsilent Bob has 2. And Jazz has 2. Hey, Sirius Black. Thanks for modding today. Appreciate your being here. Good to see you too. Glad you're here. Jody says 2. Wayne says it's something else. What do you think it is, Wayne? Put a 3 and then tell me what you think it is. That will help. Just expedite it. Leslie thinks it's a 2. Sirius thinks it's a 2. Top Cat. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for modding. Thinks it's a 2. Dab says 2. Las Vegas Girl 2. Dana 2. Kimmy says, I don't think they do a plea deal. Maybe not 2 either. Tyra thinks it's a 2. Bethany thinks it's a 2. DR says that they hope no plea deal. Adrian says, yeah, the defense is fighting as though they believe Bryan Kohberger. Well, I mean, she's fighting really hard. She sure is. Yeah. Sherry's put a 2. Adriana says a 2. Toss Penny says a 2. Bob put 2. Gail put 2. DR put a 2. Vaughn Dawson says maybe neither. Maybe jury questions or witnesses. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. 2. Thank you so much, Donna, for your super sticker. Thank you so much for the $2.99 super sticker. I'm going to put that into some stuff for editing. Per Anderson put a 2, and he hopes it's not a plea deal. Tammy 2, Jennifer 2, Donna 2. All right, so we got a lot of 2s. Let me, I welcomed you, Per Anderson, for becoming a Reporter Room channel member. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, Valerie, thank you so much for the 1999 super sticker. That is really nice of you. Thank you so much. I'll be putting that toward editing equipment. Thank you, NJAS, for gifting a reporter room membership. If you received that membership, please tell NJAS thank you. And also, I would like to say thank you. Donna Bravo gifted a $2.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Donna, for that. I really, really appreciate that. That is very kind and generous of you. Thank you. Welcome, Sandra DeForest, as a brand new channel member. Welcome to Reporter Room. I'm glad you are here. And thank you, Sherry Wallace, for the $9.99 super sticker. That is really generous of you. Thank you so much. So I will put that toward editing equipment for the channel. All right, so let's continue on, and then I'm going to come back in with chat. So what I want to do. Thanks for modding today, Pepper. Gail is from Pennsylvania. Yeah, come on in. Tell me where you're from. All right, so let's do a house tour. Let me grab this. Okay. Let me move myself out of the way, so everybody can see this. So this is the front door when you come in. So this is the lowest level, the first level of the house. For you guys that don't know, let me just show the outside. It has the front level, and then the second level, and then the third level sits up here. And so this is the entrance into the front door. And so it has the bedrooms on either side of the front door. And so this was the vacant bedroom 1B. And then this is the front door that we just came in. And this is the bedroom 1A. So this would have been Bethany's room. And that's her window. Okay. So this is 1B, and this was vacant. This was Dylan's old room. All right, so now we're up one level. So you can see the stairs are right here where the front door is. Come up the stairs, and now we're in the living room. And this is that famous good vibes sign that we've all seen. And then this is what the living room looks like. This is another view of the living room, and you can see the stairs right here going down to Bethany's room on the first floor. And there's the good vibe sign. This is the restroom. And then this is up the stairs, and then the living room would be, right there where you can see, and going a little bit behind me. Okay, so this is the kitchen. These are the infamous patio doors that you can see over here. These are the patio doors that it's believed that the perpetrator came in. And you can see the house does have an unusual layout. Now, this house was on a realtor site, Zillow, with pictures and all of that. And then this is the stairs that go up to where Maddie and Kaylee were living on the third floor. And this is the door to Dylan's room. So you can see if she opened her door a crack and looked out, she would have, seen that perpetrator coming right by that bedroom, because he would have needed to go by that room to get out through the kitchen, which is right here. So down the stairs and out through the patio. And I believe these patio doors were left open. And that's why Xana's DoorDash was found right here near the kitchen sink. And so that DoorDash was found over here. So it does appear that either Xana or Ethan came out of the room. And I think somebody did call out, because I think that having the patio doors open, they would have felt a whoosh of cold air, because there's the doors right there. And there's the kitchen sink right here. I think they would have felt a whoosh of cold air and would have, known that someone was here. So someone called out. I think it was probably Xana. There's someone here. And that probably alerted Ethan. So this is the second floor bedroom. This is bedroom 2A, bedroom 2B. And then we're going up to the third floor. So these are the stairs that go up. I just wanted to just show you what an odd layout this is. And then Maddie and Kaylee were up here on the third level, but they were both in the same bedroom. So I believe the perpetrator went straight to Maddie's room. This is the bathroom, because Murphy was okay. Murphy was left in the room. So I just wanted to give you guys a layout, and I think it would have been really easy for the perpetrator. This, I believe, was Kaylee's old room. Maddie's old room, we know, had a window with her boots in the window. And so I think this is the room that the girls were in. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys a quick layout of the house, just so you could get a sense of how everything was. So let me grab this. All right, so was Bryan Kohberger at the Mad Greek or not? Where we have, this has been a, very interesting question that a lot of people have had about this case. The Mad Greek owner was the Mad Greek manager owner was like, oh no, he wasn't here. But yet we have this employee that says that, he was there. So let's go through now. Let's look at what was said and then just, critically think through this together. Let me grab it. Okay. So my source on this is People. There's other sources too. But the People lets me share it for free. So according to a former employee at the Mad Greek restaurant in Moscow, BK came in at least twice to grab vegan pizza. Now, two of the victims, that was Maddie and Xana, and there's Maddie right here, and there's Xana, and this is Kaylee, and this is Ethan. So Maddie and Xana were both currently working there, and Kaylee was a former employee there. She was getting ready to graduate early. She had a job. She was going to graduate in December, but she had a job lined up. She had a job offer. So she was just in town at the house to show Maddie her new car. She got a new car where she got a new job. So, was able to probably get a car loan on that. So it says that People has confirmed with an investigator familiar with the case that law enforcement is aware of the restaurant visits and that the investigators have interviewed employees, plural, and owners, plural, of the Mad Greek restaurant. They've also collected surveillance video from the restaurant and surrounding businesses. Now, we haven't heard anything about the surveillance video on this. The former employee told People that there was nothing suspicious about BK's visits to the Mad Greek and that he only stood out because he had a particular order, a strict vegan. BK would check to make sure his food did not come into contact with animal products. Now, in contrast to this, the owner of the Mad Greek claims that he was not there. And, I'm going to tell you what my feeling is on this. I think that the fact that they came in and, they got surveillance video and all of that, I think it is possible that he was there. They did have a vegan menu. It's not a vegan restaurant per se, but they did have a vegan menu. He only lived 15 minutes away. And I think it's, if this employee saw him there twice, I think the employee is probably more likely to see customers than the owner, who's probably in their office at times. They're not just standing out, in the middle of the restaurant. They could be in their office. They could be back in the kitchen, or they could have been off. But I do think that he probably was there. let me know what you guys think. I'm curious if you have a different take on it. That's what I think. Um, and I also want to talk about this altercation that he had with his WSU professor. Um, we've all been wondering if a lot of people have been wondering if Bryan Kohberger was taking some type of medication for for something, and he had just left his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Prior to that, while he was attending at DeSales, he was living with his parents, and he was going to class online due to the pandemic. So did he move out on his own, and did he stop taking some type of medication? Because his behavior at DeSales, of course, that wasn't in person, it was online. So he was interacting with people online, which is different than in person. But we've heard accounts from WSU of him having this altercation. So an altercation isn't a physical, but it's also more than just a verbal argument. So it's, like an escalated verbal argument. And then we also know that he was removed from his high school program. He was in, some type of like pre-military ROTC type of program, and he got kicked out of that. And, normally if you do something wrong in high school, you might get detention, you might even get suspended, but to be completely removed from the program, in my opinion, speaks to something, pretty egregious must have happened in his high school, and some type of behavior. And we all have heard the reports of him at WSU, of grading the female students differently from the males. But then Steve Gonsalves also shared that Bryan Kohberger was doing more than that the female students had tried to escalate this to WSU, and they said that he was following them out to their cars, that he was blocking their exit from the class, like making them go around him because he was like standing in their way. So it makes me wonder if this was like some type of power and control. And then we've heard from his professor, who said that he had an altercation with Bryan Kohberger, so this really did escalate. So is this because this is how his behavior had been since high school? Did his parents miss some of the warning signs? And did he get through DeSales pretty smoothly because he wasn't in the classroom, so he didn't have to interact with other people. He was able to attend online, and he wasn't interacting in person with his professors either. So there would have been, no reason to have an argument with his professor. So let me know what you think about that. And we're going to talk about, so according to the former employee, Bryan Kohberger did visit the Mad Greek restaurant twice. So would he have come in contact with Kaylee, with Maddie, or with Xana there? We don't know, but we do know that prosecution did get video surveillance, but we haven't heard anything about it. So let's talk about the suspicious sibling, and then we're going to talk about what jury selection is going to look like, and we're going to talk about antisocial personality disorder signs and symptoms. Did his parents miss warning signs, and did his sister pick these up? So immediate relatives, let me grab a sip of water. Immediate relatives may have suspected that Bryan Kohberger, and once police announced that they were looking for this Hyundai Elantra, let me pull this up really quick. There it is. Okay. So my sourcing on this is Yahoo News, and they're using The Independent. Whoop. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me? Just yes or no? Can you guys hear me okay? Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I got told my audio went out for a second. So I was like, well, before I just keep going, let me just make sure. Blackhawk thinks law enforcement showed the car to the public on December 7th. Bryan let town less than a week later back to PA with his dad. Bryan took the bait. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. Hey, Jewel, glad you're here. Okay, so everybody can hear me. I just wanted to make sure because I got told that you guys couldn't hear me, so I panicked. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so let's talk about Bryan Kohberger because we were supposed to talk about this during the last live stream and I ran out of time, but I promised we would go through this. All right, so his sister was afraid that her brother was involved in doing away with Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana before law enforcement came in, and we know they came they came in like SWAT teamed in to his parents' Albrightsville home. And apparently they were watching him on a rifle scope, and he was in the kitchen of their home sorting out his trash from the neighbor's trash and putting his trash. They had watched him walking it down to neighbor's trash bin. So, and with gloves on too. But that's not where he was arrested. He ran back toward his bedroom. Now he might have just been startled and just, ran, but it could be, we know there was a Glock found, so maybe that's where he had that. Was he going for that? Now, sources told NBC that BK's older sibling, so this Dateline NBC is the source on this, grew increasingly suspicious of her brother and his behavior when the family gathered together to spend the holidays together. Her suspicions were so great that at one point, several family members searched Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra for possible evidence of the crime, they said. So I'm wondering who family members would have been, because it doesn't sound like his mom and dad would have thought he did it, unless they just went out to appease the sister. That's possible. But we know that his dad flew out, and this was apparently pre-planned. A lot of people have asked, did his father fly out after, make arrangements to fly out prior to the crimes being committed, or was it after the crimes were committed? And my understanding was it was like long-standing plans that he had with his dad to drive back. So I don't really think that Michael, let me know what you guys think. Do you think that his parents knew, or it sounds like his sister had an inkling, like she was suspicious, but do you think his parents were also suspicious? And we're going to go through anti-personality disorder, which may be what the prosecution is trying to get, a diagnosis on from an independent person. We're going to go through some of those signs and symptoms together next and see, did the parents miss any warning signs? So during this time, his family members did notice that he was behaving somewhat bizarrely. And yeah, I would think that would definitely be the case. We know from his drive, he was caught on camera driving with his dad across the country. He wasn't wearing latex gloves in either of those traffic stops. He wasn't wearing latex gloves in his WSU when he pulled into the crosswalk traffic stop. I haven't seen any images or photographs of him, wearing latex gloves just around before the crimes. So, but the source said that BK was constantly wearing latex gloves, including inside their own home. So this is, it is odd. And I don't know what the thinking on his part was, except did he know that he left his knife sheath behind, and was he worried there could have been some DNA on that knife sheath? Now, one of his two older sisters began to wonder if he could have played a part in the crimes. And it makes me wonder what signs she saw. Remember, both of his sisters are mental health professionals. So Bryan got his bachelor's in psychology, and both of the sisters have mental health degrees also. So what was going on in the house? We know there were 2 bankruptcies filed. Was there some stress going on in the house that we just don't know about yet? But she, according, said that she was raising concerns with her other family members. She loudly pointed out at the time of the crimes, her brother was living just a few miles away from the crime scene, and that he drove a white Hyundai Elantra, and the make and the color of the vehicle at the center of the investigation. So along with his bizarre tendency to wear latex gloves all the time, his sister believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have done away with, I'm watching my words here, the 4 victims, according to the source. Now, BK's father allegedly defended his son during this conversation and insisted that he could not have been involved. But the concerns were clearly big enough for several family members to reportedly decide to search he's not 28 now, he's 30 now, the 28-year-old's vehicle to look for possible evidence. And by that point, the police say that BK had already been spotted cleaning his car out with bleach. And we also heard from Steve Gonzalez that professional level lab cleaning agents were also found. And, I don't know if this was found in the search or if this was just, they picked this up when they were, doing testing on the car. So we'll find out more at the trial. So the family members didn't find anything of note, the source said. So they suspected him and didn't find anything. So it's not really clear. We don't know if Bryan Kohberger was aware of his family's suspicions. And what kind of behaviors were going on that may have led to his own sister thinking that he committed this crime. So we know on December 30th of 2022, law enforcement swatted the house basically and arrested him for the crimes. And at the time of his arrest, the source said that Bryan Kohberger was wide awake, standing in the kitchen, wearing latex gloves, putting his personal trash in plastic bags, and to take it out to the neighbor's trash bin. So, that in and of itself could maybe be explained away, but, it's just one more piece on the puzzle. And I think, the fact that they have his DNA on the knife sheath, the fact that it's his make and model, and the car doesn't have a front license plate, just like his car didn't, circling the crime scene and parking, the fact that he turned his phone off right during the time of the crimes, the fact that they have his phone pinging on the way to and going from the crime scene that night, the fact that he's wearing gloves after the crime, and the fact that Ann Taylor had to put him in the car. She doesn't have an alibi. We still haven't heard anything about an alibi. So this could also be what this closed door hearing is. It could be some kind of really heated discussion about the fact that, alibi. The judge gave him more time. He gave Ann Taylor a little bit more time, but she's, it's either, she said, if he doesn't provide an alibi, he can always take the stand and say where he was. An attorney close to the family declined to comment on the revelations outlined in Dateline's special called The Illings on King Road with a K. And on Monday, we know that he did appear for an arraignment. And he didn't enter a plea. He stood silent. So BK himself has never said that he's not guilty. And, a lot of people have speculated that maybe he, chose to do this because it would leave him open to a plea deal. And boy, Ann Taylor has worked so hard to try to keep capital punishment off the table, but yet, all of them have been denied. I think she's had, over 10 motions trying to get capital punishment removed, and the judge has just said no, 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 no. So, we know that there's 12 hours of raw video footage, and we know this because Ann Taylor tried to get it thrown out and said she didn't have time to go through the 12 hours of video footage. And for that reason, that she thought it should be thrown out, because she had tried other motions too to get it thrown out. And the judge said, no, it's coming in. So we know there's a lot of raw video footage of this Hyundai Elantra. So we know that 2 items in his apartment tested positive for blood. We just don't know who it belongs to. We know that there were 2 items with a mattress cover on the bed and an uncased pillow. Both had reddish brown stains. We don't know who it belongs to. We know that investigators seized a string of other items from his home, including human and animal strands, a disposable glove, and a computer. And we know that he searched out the K-bar knife on Amazon. He put it in his cart on Amazon. He bought it along with a knife sheath and a knife sharpener. So, who do these animal strands belong to? Because if they link back to Buddy the dog, who belonged to the Coberts, and that dog was done away with on October 21st, the day that Bryan was told by his professor that he was failing, or that dog hair links back to Kaylee and Jack D's dog, Murphy the dog, that is going to be a huge problem for the defense. I think that is going to be a big problem. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And this is Maddie. She is on your left and Kaylee is on the right. And so this is where we, first learned that he had been studying under this forensic psychologist, Kathleen Ramsland, who interviewed the BTK Dennis Rader, and the book she co-wrote it was Confessions of an SK, the untold story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. And so she co-wrote it with him. And so it does make me wonder if she did, I think that Howard Bloom saying that this was the motive and that the prosecution is going to present this as the motive. I don't know. I don't know the validity on that. I don't think it's valid, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different take. But I do think she did reach out. I do think that she did reach out to his family, and maybe she wants to write a book. That's what I think. All right, let's talk about antisocial personality disorder. Were there warning signs? And did Bryan Kohberger's family miss the warning signs? What did they know? And let me move myself out of the way. Let me see. I think I'm okay if I'm here because that's just an ads. All right, let me check in with chat. See how you guys are, what you guys think about this. Do you think there were warning signs for Bryan Kohberger? Put a yes in the chat. If you think there were no warning signs and that his parents were completely caught off guard, put a 2 in the chat. But it, does make me wonder with the medication use and if that wasn't. Let me see. Let me take a couple of questions here. Marilyn says, it's really hard to say if the parents knew. I don't think any parent would want to believe their child could do that. Yeah, I agree. And hey, Amelia. Amelia's our other head mod along with NJazz. And this is NJazz. Thank you guys so much. Mods are us. Thank you to all our mods today. ASP Lizzie says, maybe he thought his sister was on to him. I don't know. I wonder if he knew, what was he aware of as far as his sister? Did he know that she suspected him? Was he privy to that conversation, or did that happen away from him? I would think it wouldn't have happened in front of him, but maybe. Kristen says, what exactly gets you thrown out, expelled? Yeah, exactly. What can get, this was expelled. So it had to be something expelled from his high school program, and he had to finish online. So what would get you completely removed out of your high school program? It had to be something more than just, an argument, and more than just, something that you could have suspended somebody for. So it had to be something bigger than that. Florence said she thinks he was wearing gloves. He was hiding his DNA. Top Chat says, surely his parents knew he was constantly cleaning his car. Yeah, I don't know. That would definitely set off alarm bells for me if I saw my child out in the middle of the night. But maybe they went to bed, at 9 and weren't looking out the window where the car was. Jennifer said BK's dad had to question the long route from Washington to PA. This sticks out to me. Yeah, that's the other thing that, that was a little, there was a snowstorm. So I just, there was a snowstorm, but they took, a 9-hour detour, which seems like a really long detour for just a snowstorm. It just seems like a little bit longer than normal. Las Vegas girl said his sister tried to tell the dad he didn't believe BK could do that. I think you're right. Blackhawk said he stole his sister's phone and took an Uber to the mall and sold the phone. His own dad turned him in. You're right. I wonder, if do you think that the Blackhawk? Do you think that there was other things? And all of you guys, do you think there was other things going on, and that this was just the last straw for his dad? The Jewel said, I believe he knew that he left the knife sheath. The siblings would have noticed his disturbing behaviors. And Mike says, I wonder if the trip was actually planned for the dad to get him. I feel like the car in the news, the mom sent the dad to get him and the car home. My understanding, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary. If I do, I will bring it to you. But my understanding is that this was a planned trip, that it was planned. Hey, Pepper. Hi, Vintage. Peacock Vintage says his dad had to realize something was amiss with Bryan Kohberger during that long drive. What do you think Bryan Kohberger was thinking when he got pulled over on that traffic stop the second time in just a few minutes? I think the traffic stops were less than 20 minutes apart. Some people have said around 11 minutes apart. What do you think he thought the second time he got pulled? You think his wheels were turning and that this is why he's suddenly wearing gloves everywhere? Do you think that, he just started spinning in his own head? Gail Marie says, has anyone heard that he wore gloves in school? If not, yeah, exactly. Great point, Gail. I mean, I'm with you on that. And the same thing with the drives. Ian Taylor said he loves to take long drives. He loved to go for runs to gaze at the stars and the moon. And Steve Gonzalez, wants to know, did he have a stargazing app? Because that night was ice fog. It was ice fog that night. But I want to know, did he still enjoy long drives after the crimes were committed, or did everything just stop? Did the long drive stop after the crimes, or did they continue on? Because if they continued, then maybe Ann Taylor's right. Maybe he really just did love long drives, and this is just all one massive link of coincidences, and he is just the most unlucky person ever. Or if the long drives all just stopped, then maybe he just really wasn't out there stargazing on a night with ice fog and clouds. Yeah, Ray Charles was a blind musician. Rollo says, Utah prisoners are tough, lots of gang activity, something he knows nothing about. I don't know what this conversation's about. Okay, Wayne says, supposedly his sister said BK and another guy used a K-bar to cut up that night. I haven't heard that. If you have a source on that, please let me know. I will check it out. Sherry says, I speculate that since he was fired, he probably won't go back to WSU. Most doctoral programs require a teaching assistant position. Very interesting. And Deb says, please don't forget to like. Yeah, please like and subscribe. It is free and it helps me out. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers without you guys. Linda put in a 2. Topcat says, were he and Dad avoiding main highways on the way back to Pennsylvania? Oh, you think they were maybe avoiding cameras on the way back? What was really interesting, too, is they gave different answers for the reasons why. His dad gave 2 different answers for the reasons why they were driving back. And maybe there were multiple reasons why they took this big, long detour. The Jewel said if the sisters were observant with mental health, they would have been suspicious about his behavior and antics. Sherry says the sister knows what she knows. And Virginia says, I never heard that. What? Cleaned his car. Well, yeah, that's what law enforcement had him under surveillance. Yeah. Rebecca says, may I just point out it was Howard Blum that made the statement that BK's sister suspected him. So we don't know that, in fact, it's true or just one of Howard's theories. Well, the sourcing that I just shared wasn't from Howard. So I just want to put that out there. So he may have shared that theory also, but he's probably, reading some of the same things that I'm reading. Kat said he wanted to take another crazy route to Pennsylvania. Very, very interesting, you guys. Very, very interesting. I want to welcome Sandra as a brand new Reporter Room channel member and thank Sherry for the $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Thank you to Pepper who gifted a Reporter Room membership. That is so nice of you. And thank you to 6 Cents Amelia who gifted a Reporter Room membership. Wow, you guys, that is so nice of you, Amelia, and also Pepper and Jazz gifted Reporter Room memberships today. If you guys got one of those, please I know you guys will say thank you. And I just want to also say thank you so much. And thank you for the super chats. All right, let's go through this because did his parents miss some signs and symptoms of antisocial personality disorder? So antisocial personality disorder is sometimes called sociopathy. It's a mental health condition. Oh, my sourcing on this is the Mayo Clinic. You can see their little insignia up there. Okay, so so let's go through what some of the signs and symptoms would have been. They tend to purposely make others angry or upset and manipulate or treat others harshly or with cruel indifference. They lack remorse and do not regret their behavior. People with antisocial personality disorder often violate the law, becoming criminals. They may lie. They may behave violently, impulsively, have problems with medication or alcohol use. They have difficulty consistently meeting responsibilities related to family, work, or school. We know he did have, medication issues. Now, to be clear, not everybody who has medication issues is has this type of personality disorder. I just want to make that clear. But this is just one of the symptoms. So I would think that for somebody to diagnose this, it would have to be several of the symptoms, not just one. And I do wonder if this is what his sisters were seeing. And did his parents, were they in denial? Symptoms of antisocial personality disorder include repeatedly ignoring right from wrong, telling lies to take advantage of others, not being sensitive or respectful of others. We know he took his sister's cell phone and he sold it. Did he know that what he did was wrong? Does he know the difference of right and wrong? I think he does know, but is he willing to ignore it? Using charm or wit to manipulate others for personal gain or pleasure. Well, we know that he did mastermind. It's been reported out with this WSU colleague, this female that he friended and tended to be friended. He was able to gain her trust. He allegedly went into her house, broke into her home, and moved some things around, but didn't steal anything, and then talked to her on the phone or in person and convinced her to let him install security systems inside her home, and then proceeded to spy on her using them. So that would be an example of willingness to manipulate others for personal gain or pleasure. I always have people asking me about this, and I say the articles are out there. Feel free to Google it. I've already shown the receipts on the channel. Having a sense of superiority and being extremely opinionated. Well, we heard from Ann Taylor that he was very opinionated, right? In her motion, it sounds like she was, had her hands full with him. Having problems with the law, including criminal behavior. The only thing we know about is this stealing of the phone. Being hostile, aggressive, violent, or threatening to others. I don't know what he said in this altercation with his professor. I don't know what he did in whatever got him kicked out of his high school program and made him finish his high school classes online. But we do know that he was blocking the door, standing in the way, forcing female students to go around him. I think that's being aggressive, in my opinion. And then we don't know, if he did do these crimes. I mean, clearly he was violent. Feeling no guilt about harming others. We've all seen the thumbs up photo of him. And this was at 9 a.m. the morning after the crimes. And if he is the one that did this crime, I would say that he felt no guilt and no remorse about taking away the innocent lives of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana. Doing dangerous things with no regard for the safety of self or others. Being irresponsible and failing to fulfill work or financial responsibilities. Well, he lived at home with his parents until he went to Washington State University. So I don't know, if any of this. But here's some other things. They usually show symptoms of this before the age of 15. So did his parents miss anything? Aggression toward people and animals. Destruction of property. Lying and dishonesty. Theft. We know he did steal. Serious violations of the rules, and whatever he did in high school was enough to get him thrown out. So I think some of these things did apply. So what were his parents thinking was going on with him? Did they miss some crucial warning signs, and could they have gotten help for him sooner? It's considered a lifelong condition. But in some people, certain symptoms, particularly destructive and criminal behavior, can decrease over time. It's not clear whether this decrease is a result of the effect of aging has on the mind and body, and increased awareness of the impact that antisocial behavior has had on their life, or other factors. So I thought that was really interesting, because I do wonder if, there were some signs and they just didn't see them. Did they, were they just overlooking stuff? We know his mom was a special ed teacher, so that's why I think it's really unusual that he would get an autistic diagnosis while he's in jail at the age of 28. Why wouldn't they have gotten that sooner? I don't understand that. But maybe we'll find out more as, once Ann Taylor has a chance to present the defense side. So let's talk about what jury selection is going to look like. And let me just see where we are on chat. Let me see. Welcome, Pip Lover, as a brand new Reporter Room channel member. I'm so glad that you are here and part of the Reporter Room family. Welcome. I am grateful that you are here. And I do, well, before we get like all the way into this, because I still have some stuff to go through, I do want to just say thank you so much to our producers, and Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown Pepper, and Christy Ballantyne. Thank you so much. Thank you to our channel members too. We're not done, so I still have stuff to go through, but I just do want to do a shout out and a thank you to all our channel members. Now, being a channel member is different than being a subscriber. Subscribing is free, and it helps me out a lot. Channel members is a join button, and we do have our own channel member live streams. You would have access to those, and then channel member videos. You would have access to those also. So you are that is the join button, which is next to the subscribe button. And you would get a check mark next to your name for all of the live streams, and your name appears just like this. And thank you so much to Super Thanks and Coffee Gratitude for our last live stream. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships. If I have left your name out of the channel memberships and you are a channel member and I've left your name out of a Super Thanks, please let me know so I can put it in for the next time. I don't want anybody to like ever feel embarrassed. I'm human. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. So please let me know so I can correct that. I don't know, Rebecca. Rebecca wants to know how many times he was in rehab. I don't know. Mike thinks that he got way bigger problems than autism. Elsa said, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. ASAP Lizzie said, it's not their fault. Parents have a hard time believing it, but it seems like there were red flags. Zero says you couldn't miss his psychopathy. Welcome, Princess Elsa. Thank you for being a Reporter Room channel member for 8 months. Thank you so much. Dinah says there has to be a nexus between 4 students and Bryan Kohberger. I don't know if it has to be between all 4 because I don't know if Ethan and Xana were part of it or not. That having that DoorDash bag outside makes me wonder if it was just bad luck. They came out of their rooms, and why Bethany and Dylan survived is, Dylan peeked out, but then she closed her door and locked it. May have been just having that, that locked door. I also think that, things didn't go the way he planned and he was anxious to get out of there. Sean says, my ex was antisocial when young. His mom must have known and chose to ignore it. Oh, wow. Callie says, I'm sure there were signs, but even when you're highly educated on those signs, they can still be overlooked, unfortunately. That's true. Hey, Michelle. And Donna says, thank you to our mods. Yes, thank you to Mods Are Us. That's my hashtag. You guys are awesome. Las Vegas Girl, I would love to be a mod with you guys. Oh, great. Let me know during the next member's live stream and I will give you a wrench. Mike says, I bet they didn't know him. If he tried, they dished him, I bet. Lainey says, it's like DV. Tend to make excuses for those close to us without realizing it. They knew something was wrong, though. And Lizzie says, thank you to all the mods and the chat. Yes, thank you to all our mods. Callie said, Dr. Ramslin seems to have missed. Well, remember, she was interacting with him, but she was only interacting with him online. Because of the pandemic, she wasn't in person with him. So, but yeah, she didn't catch it either. And she's a forensic psychologist, but he wasn't her patient, so I don't know how much you could pick up online. But that's definitely an interesting point, Callie. You're definitely making me think. Thank you, Dynamite. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it. Chantel says, looking back into that house was spooky. I just wanted to show you the layout and why it is so weird. And the prosecution has built a model of the home, but it is a really odd layout. And when you see how close Dylan's room was to the stairs going up to Maddie and Kaylee's, but I also wanted to show you why sound may have traveled differently in that house than we think it does. Because when you think about, Bethany being on the first floor and things happening on the third floor, but I just don't think these crimes sounded like what we think they sounded like, because Ethan and Xana didn't call 911 either. when Keely and Maddie were being done away with, which is why I think that 7-inch blade, would have gone here first. And even if you were still fighting back while you're, passing away, you could silence someone and they could still be, conscious for a few minutes. Yeah, we have a Facebook group if you guys want. Christine said, yes, thank you so much. That's really kind of you, Christy. Debbie says, I can't think a locked door would have kept him out if he really wanted to unalive her. He had to be full of adrenaline. That's true. But at that point, somebody had shouted out, there's someone here, and he must have wondered, did somebody call 911? Maybe. I don't know. All right, let's look at, let's go through this. Okay. So let's talk about what jury selection is probably going to look like. So both the defense and the prosecution are they're now already focusing on the all-important jury selection. Jurors will undergo a screening process before stepping foot into the courthouse, with both sides paying attention to demographics and personalities. So, of course, they're not going to want people who are like really familiar with the case, right? So Fox 13 talked to legal experts about both sides likely to have jury consultants and have already done mock trials to test how potential jurors would respond to their case. And attorney Ann Bremmer said, and you guys might remember her from Court TV, she said, for me, my favorite part of this case, because I really get a good sense of who I'll be together with for the impending weeks or months. So she's talking about the jury here. She said about the potential jurors set foot into the courthouse, they'll likely fill out a lengthy questionnaire asking them their views on law enforcement, their views on the capital punishment, and if they've ever heard of Bryan Kohberger. From there, the attorneys can question the prospective jurors in a process called voir dire. Is it pronounced voir dire or voir dire? I've heard it said both. I guess maybe potato. Let me know how that's pronounced if I've said it wrong. And then she continues, she said, then you start looking at two things. One is indoctrination and the other is kind of exploration. This is the attorney saying this. She said, indoctrination during jury duty is when you try to hit your themes as you talk with jurors. So you're asking them, do you agree with this idea? How do you feel about this? And try to get them to go your way a bit. And a lot of judges won't allow that, but it's something you try to do. So jury selection begins on July 30th. It might be, interesting to watch. Now, Dr. Andrea Blunt Hunter is a trial consultant with Mind Matters Jury Consulting. And she said, one of the best things about America is our jury system. And she told Fox 13 that attorneys are not looking for a juror who has never heard of Bryan Kohberger, because that could be difficult considering the media exposure this case has received, but rather they are looking for a person in the middle. So maybe somebody that's heard of him, but hasn't really formed an opinion on that, or is open-minded. So this jury consultant said, those who have heard about it, but understand that there are always two sides to a story, and the best case for the defense is somebody who's willing to hear their story. And now Ann Bremner weighed in. She's the attorney. And she said, one thing I do in a high profile case, I ask jurors to write everything they heard about the case, because if they're writing everything they know about the case, they're kind of telling me what they think about the case. That's interesting. That would be interesting. So both sides are also paying attention to demographics as well as the personality of each prospective juror. So each side will be looking for different relationships people have with authority. For example, the prosecution would want a law and order advocate on their side. This is according to the jury expert. She said there's probably a lot of them in Boise, Idaho, so the defense has a tougher challenge. So I would think that the prosecution would like to have somebody who's, pro law enforcement, and the defense might want to have somebody that isn't. She adds that Kohberger's lawyers will be looking for people who are more skeptical and don't accept things at first glance. There's also another challenge that they are mindful of. So this is according to the jury selection expert. That she said, one of the dark horses that both sides are afraid of is that the juror who really wants to be on this jury, and you could see a juror really wanting to get on this jury to write a book or something like that. No one wants that person to slip through because it could lead to a mistrial. And we saw an incident, not with the juror, but in the Alex Murdaugh case, the clerk of the court, Miss Becky, wrote a book. She self-published it on the Alex Murdaugh case. And there were, people saying because she had access to the jury that she was, supposedly steering the verdict. Now they, it didn't end up getting anywhere because the jury said jurors denied it. But, anytime somebody comes in and then goes on to write a book or something like that can be a big problem. The attorneys will also need to find out if a potential juror has been the victim of a crime before, and if they would be susceptible to being traumatized during this trial, because there are likely to be difficult crime scene photos and details to come out. And I do think there are going to be graphic images that we are going to see during this trial. And let me just put this up in case anybody's coming by. Just so they know who and what we're talking about. So this picture right here is that you see of this picture right here was posted on Kaylee's Instagram just hours before she was done away with. And you can see there's Kaylee and Maddie and Ethan and Xana. And then this is Bethany and Dylan. So that's the iconic photo. Let's see where we're at here. And Justice, thank you to everybody who gave it a thumbs up. Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate that. Oh, yes, I got merch. And if you're a channel member, I told you in the last live stream what your merch discount is. You have a discount on merch. So if you got gifted a Reporter Room membership, you get a discount on merch. I never had merch before. And it's in all different colors. I think my page just shows black and white, but I have all different colors in there. Hey, Don. So what do you guys think about jury selection? Do you think somebody is going to try to sneak on this jury? Mike says there was a story about a guy attacked in jail. He punched him over 3 dozen times in a minute. So people need to imagine how much 5 minutes is and what somebody can do with a K-bar. Yeah, and if you think about the K-bar being 7 inches, and that is, meant to, let me see if I can get myself on camera here, 7 inches, that would go like all the way through and come out the other side. Or if you went this way, you could go like all the way back. So you could silence somebody and it take time for them to pass. And Ted Bundy did it in less time. He went into and none of the young women woke up in the other rooms in that building either. Jules said there will be very graphic, huge photos of the victims and their injuries. I'm worried about that too. So what I think we'll do on this channel, because I am going to air the trial, is when we're getting to something really, really graphic, as there are going to be some things you probably don't want to let into your mind. Even if you want to watch the trial, you might, there's going to be some things you may not want. So what I'll do is, put a like a 1-up, or maybe I'll just put I'm not doing a giveaway, but I can put a little sign up like this. And, just to let you know that we have something graphic coming up. And then once it's over, I can just flash that up on the screen. And then you guys could come back on if you don't want to be exposed to anything. How I'm hoping that they handle it, just for, let me know what you guys think. How I hope this is handled is that it isn't flashed up on the screen. I just feel like they could show the jury maybe without showing us. I don't know if those images need to be out there for everybody to see. Let me know what you guys think about that. Would you want to see those? I don't know if I could get that out of my head if I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's see where we are. Linda says his family had to know there were issues with Bryan. His mom was in danger. Bryan hates women because he got turned down many times he wanted. And it makes you wonder, like, what was the dynamics in the house too that like got this all started? I mean, we know he had altercations with females in high school, right? He had a crush on, and then there was like some bullying there. And he lost weight, and I get his friends, just in high school, friends said that their personality changed, and he went from being bullied to being the bully. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Unicorn says cleaning up one's own crime scene other than for legit reasons is so like garbage cleaning OCD. And Teresa says Dana wearing all black in that picture. Yeah, then that's what we did here in the but Dylan was talking about seeing a man dressed all in black, and Bryan Kohberger fits the description of who Dylan saw too. Again, the car fits his car description. It didn't have a front license plate on it. And for people who are saying there's no car video footage, there is car video footage. There is video of the car. The car there's 12 hours of raw video footage that we just haven't seen yet. And how do we know this? Because Ann Taylor filed motions to suppress this evidence. And if it's good for the prosecution, she wants it to come in. If it's, good for the defense, Ann Taylor wants it to come in. If it's bad for the defense, Ann Taylor files a motion to suppress it. In this case, she tried to suppress all 12 hours of raw video footage of the Hyundai Elantra. So I don't think it's exonerating for Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion. Let me know if you think. But Dylan was texting with Bethany, and she said she saw a man dressed in all black, who was 6 feet tall or taller, that he was athletic but not muscular, and he fits all of this. He was white. It was a male. So I think there's a lot of things that he fit that description too. And then we have that Vans shoe print. And I think what Ann Taylor didn't say in her motions is, in my opinion, is interesting, is what she did say about the Vans shoe print. She did not say it wasn't Bryan Kohberger's shoe size, and therefore the jury shouldn't see it. She didn't say that. She didn't say Bryan Kohberger doesn't own this type of shoe. She didn't say that either. What she did try to say was that it was going in a different direction, that the print was going in a different direction from what Dylan witnessed. And the judge said, we know that he went in the judge didn't say this, but the judge denied her motion. But we know he went in other directions, because we know the perpetrator went upstairs to the 3rd floor, because that's where Maddie and Kaylee were done away with. And we know that the perpetrator went back towards Xana and where Ethan was sleeping, in Xana's room, because that's where they were. So we know that, the footprints would be going in different directions besides just the patio door. But why didn't she say it wasn't my client's shoe print? His size. Why was the size of the shoe print doesn't match Bryan Kohberger? We know he wears a size 13. So why didn't she say that? I think that's interesting. Viewer discretion caption. Yeah, that's what I'll probably put on that. And just to be clear, I'm not doing a giveaway. I just want to make that really clear. Hey, Rebecca. ASP Lizzie says he looks terrifying to me in this picture. He's wearing that turtle jumpsuit. And he does have, we've heard from the Steve Gonsalves that there was quite a few women at WSU that had problems with him, but we also have heard through multiple media outlets, and you guys can Google this and do your own research on it. You don't have to take my word for it. That he was on the University of Idaho campus, hanging out in the student union, sipping on water, why was he there? He didn't attend that college. He wasn't with friends, and that he was staring at young women and making them feel uncomfortable. And in my opinion, I believe this was intentional, just like with his body and the WSU female. I remember these women didn't know each other. We had female students at University of Idaho and female students at WSU. They didn't know each other. And, so why was he making women feel uncomfortable at University of Idaho? And I think it was intentional. And this is another reason why I'm not 100% convinced that he has autism, because if you watch like Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, you'll see that one of the hallmarks of autism is the difficulty in making eye contact. And he doesn't seem to have that difficulty, in my opinion. And I'm not saying he is or isn't autistic. I'm not a mental health expert, but I just, I'm skeptical. And it sounds like the prosecution is too, which is why they want an independent person to verify the diagnoses. Dion says, did Bryan really Google what happened? Yeah. That's what we heard from Steve Gonsalves. That he Googled it before the 911 call. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, well, he would have heard about this because everybody heard about this. And I'm like, no, not everybody heard about this. We heard law enforcement arrive. We heard the tapes. The only people that were there in the house were Emily and Hunter. So not everybody knew about this. So I just want to put that out there. If you have a source that says it's everybody knew about this, let me know and I will make the correction. But I have not seen any evidence that shows that everybody knew about this. I want to say thank you to Shannon for the $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, Shannon. And Shannon says, no fault of Dr. Ramsland's, but could be true. Only BK would know. Yeah, good point. I agree. And but Dr. Ramsland, there's no way that, she was his professor at DeSales. There's no way just interacting with somebody online would make you know for sure, you'd be able to diagnose somebody because you wouldn't know about all. That's why I wanted to go through what the behaviors were. There's no way she would have, been able to know about the problems that he had in high school. And then, of course, a lot of the stuff that we've heard about with the WSU female colleague where he installed security cameras and used them to spy on her. And I've had people say there's no evidence. I'm like, well, we're not to the trial yet. Let's see if there's evidence. Let's see. And Josh says, everyone is right. They won't show those images outside of the court, including cameras. I hope so. That's what I hope too. This is what I hope. I hope they don't make them public. Because they could show them to the jury. They don't have to show them to all of us. It's not something you can unsee. And I just feel like out of respect for Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, it doesn't need to be made public, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different take on it. If you think that they should be made public. I think the jury should see them for sure because they have to decide. But I don't know that we as a public need to see them. SRF81 put a 2. Kirsten said, more than likely, only the jury will see most, if not all, of the graphic images. If not, they will always give a heads up and warning with ample time before showing them. Yes. And if they do that, what I'll do is I'll have something pre-prepped to go that I will flash it on the screen to let you know. So you guys can just, look away and then I'll put it back up on the screen and let you know that it's done so that you guys are not triggered, because once you see something like that, you can't unsee it, which is why I would say be very careful what you want to let into your mind. Kathleen said, I don't want to see the graphic pic. I agree. I don't either. Las Vegas girl said they never show images outside of the courtroom. That's what I think is going to happen too. That's what I hope. It's me. Mike says, I'm curious how fast he went by Dylan when he left. Was he moving fast, breathing fast, exhausted? I wonder what his condition was. I feel like he was exhausted and left in a rush. I don't know. I mean, we've heard from his Strava app that he could run a 6-minute mile. I know he probably would have practiced. I don't know. I will have to wait for what Dylan has to say. Can I kick it? Says, it's so funny how all the Kohbergers act like we know everything about the case already and lean on untrue. Well, yeah, we're not soothsayers. I'm just bringing you the information that from credibly sourced information. And if I find out something, or if you guys tell me something, I'll always say, well, what is your source on this? And then I will, not maybe that minute. It might take me a day. I do have other things that I'm doing, but it might take me a day, but I'll go look at it. And if I think, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I'll make the correction. So I'll make the adjustment. If it's just an opinion that was just given by somebody, that's different. But if it's, credibly sourced information, and then I do try to let you know when we're doing speculation. Jane Lee says, I heard Bryan entered a girl's house without her knowing and moved stuff around to scare her. Yeah, that's the WSU colleague that he tended and befriended. And he used her cameras to spy on her. People are like, well, where's the proof? Well, you're going to have to wait for the trial, guys. There's no proof out there yet of anything. We know there's 12 hours of raw footage of the Hyundai Elantra, but we haven't seen it yet. ASAP said his eyebrows in the above pictures are out of control. Yeah, and that's the other thing, bushy eyebrows. She, and Ann Taylor tried to keep that word out. She lost that motion also. But yeah, I think he definitely has bushy eyebrows. I would describe those eyebrows as bushy. I'm looking at, at just from a female's point of view, that those would be, especially if you had something that was covering, and we know he had like a balaclava that was covering everything, then you would, and his brow bone does jut forward a little bit, to me, it would look very bushy. And I am going to do the Sebastian Rogers case today if you want to follow me over for that. Hi, so Joey, you can always back up the chat if you come in late. Unicorn of Hope says we have a rear license plate in Pennsylvania. Right. So you don't have a front license plate, which is what this car has. It does not have. It does not have a front license plate. Jewel says, while in court, the family will be given the option to stay in court while the pictures are shown, or the family can leave. Yeah, and I really hope that they don't. Maybe some of them will want to see it, but I would probably, I don't know. If I were a family member, I probably wouldn't. Didn't Kaylee's father say there will not be a plea deal? Well, I don't think he wants a plea deal. I don't think the family members want a plea deal. Clearly, Steve and Christy don't want it. And, there's pros and cons to the plea deal. The pro is that, he pleads guilty and it's over. But the con is that, just like in the Chris Watts case, you don't get all the information that would have come out during the trial. The person just allocutes, and you may not get details that you want to know. And then also, if there was a plea deal, it means he would probably then the prosecution would take capital punishment off the table. And I don't think all of the family members are agreeing that they would want that. Now, they don't get to decide this. It's ultimately up to the prosecution and the district attorney. But I would think that the victim's feelings about this would be considered. Let me know what you think, if you think they would be considered. Tara says, after she made the slip about it being Brian's car, it's too late now. Yeah, if you didn't catch that, I have a video on that where Ann Taylor says, not Brian's car. And she literally slips up while she's making another argument and admits that it is his car. Top Cat 88 said the verbal description by the medical examiner will be graphic as well. Yeah. Huge eyebrows. Jan thinks it's a 2. Jewel said, remember his mom was concerned about his mom. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, his mother wrote, I guess, some type of an opinion piece about Ted Bundy and about capital punishment, because she's against it. Now, this was not, she's not, some people have misunderstood this and think that somehow she's pro Ted Bundy. I don't think that was the purpose of what she wrote. I think she just really is anti-capital punishment. But, the family members, like Steve Gonzalez has probably been the most vocal about this, and that's Kaylee's dad. And she's the one holding Maddie on her shoulders in this picture here. Steve has said that, if this is not a case for capital punishment, then I don't know what is. I mean, when you think about it, these young people were in their own homes, in their own rooms, in pairs. They went, they were out in pairs, not bothering anyone. And this person broke into the house for the sole purpose of doing this. And if this is Bryan Kohberger, went home and at 9 a.m. took a thumbs up photo of himself after, which to me shows no remorse. Court and Kieran said, based on how much evidence they have, I highly doubt there will be a plea deal. Sherry said, I hopped up on adrenaline in a hurry with tunnel vision, making the getaway. Yeah, and I think had Dylan come out of her room, he may have, she may not be here anymore. I think Dylan and Bethany survived because they stayed, Dylan peeked out, but she didn't come out. Whereas I think that somehow that DoorDash bag got put back on the kitchen counter. We've seen that, and it had Xana's name on it. I think that Xana came out of her bedroom and that he went back in after her. And maybe he was always targeting Xana. I don't know. Sean says ASAP. I don't know how to explain it. It's a cream, not a spray tan. Oh, I don't know what this. Mike says Dylan saw one big brow. Yeah, she talks more about like seeing like a peripheral view, which is why I also wanted you to see that how he would have come down the stairs and how she peeking out. She would have seen him. Coming down, he would have come into view, and she would have, and that eyebrows are bushy. So when law enforcement is looking at this, would help them narrow down the people too. Who has a Hyundai Elantra? Who has a Hyundai Elantra without a front license plate? Who fits the description? Is white? Is a male? Has bushy eyebrows? Is over 6 feet tall? Who fits that demographic? And then they had the DNA on the knife sheath, but they didn't identify Bryan Kohberger as a suspect until December 19th. Kirsten says, images are seen of the courtroom. It's if they get it wrong hands, which happens often, but she is talking about airing the case live, which the images would be shown. And if it is, we will know in advance, that like the day before, and we will have some things put in place, because I don't want to be disturbed by it, and I know you guys don't want to be either. But I really am wondering if they are even going to let the jury see this. In my experience, they don't. But did you watch the Lori Vallow trial and the Chad Daybell trial? Because I don't think they showed the pictures. I don't think they showed it to us. Let me know if you watched it and if you did see pictures during the airing of the hearing. Not in a newspaper article, but during the trial, like live. Zero said, I think the shoe print suggests the shoes were covered by booties. Well, the Vans shoe print has a very distinct diamond pattern, which is why, a lot of people, myself included, wondered if he did try to go back into the house. Why was he back there at 9 a.m. in the morning? And there's like two schools of thought on this. And, and this may be when he was looking up the crime. Some people think he went back there because he knew he forgot the knife sheath, and that he went back there to try to find it. And maybe that's when the Vans shoe print was left. That's one theory. The other theory is that, and we know now from Steve Gonzalez, that he searched the crime before law enforcement was called up. Maybe he went to go see, he heard somebody call out, there's someone here. And maybe he went to go see if, all the police cars, and to watch and to enjoy, the aftermath. Why was his phone pinging at the house at 9 a.m. that morning? Let me know what you guys think. Well, I am heading over. I'm going to be doing a live stream on the Sebastian Rogers, if you want to join me for that. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. And thank you so much for being a part of the Reporter Room family. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's free. And I cannot get to 50,000 subscribers without your help.